Hi boys and girls. So today I'm actually coming to you from outside. So it's so nice out, but I still have to get my work done. So I decided I would bring some work outside and still be able to enjoy some nice weather. So what I want to talk to you today about are frogs, but also the difference between a frog and a toad. So when we look at frogs and toads, sometimes we think they're the same thing, but this book is a nonfiction book called Frogs. They are amazing amphibians. So it has a big word, amphibians. That makes me wonder, I wonder what that means. So I think this book will teach us about that. And it's also going to teach us about the difference between frogs and toads. So we're going to learn 40 fun facts about these amphibians. So 40 fun facts, all words that start with F for frogs. Now that's a great picture of a frog. Looks different from this one. This one has red eyes that really stick up on top. This one has green eyes. I noticed this one has yellow suckers on its feet, its webbed feet, and this one, if you really can tell, it kind of has an orangish reddish feet, but both are green. So we're going to notice some things that are the same and some things that are different about some frogs. These are real pictures. Learn about the world book. Now this is called the table of contents. Chapter 1 will teach us, it's called One Happy Family. Chapter 2 is all about a frog's life, and we learned a lot about the life cycle. Chapter 3 is called The Hungry Frog, so maybe that'll teach us what frogs eat. Chapter 4, Are Frogs in Trouble? And then, Did You Know? And then Special Words to Know. So those are all the names of the different chapters of this book, and that's what we'll be learning about. One happy family. 3 red-eyed tree frogs, one with an inflated vocal sac. So notice how this one's underneath here, it's kind of like our chin area. Underneath a frog's mouth is called their vocal sac. This one doesn't have one. So inflated, remember we've learned inflate and deflate when we practice our breathing. So inflated means it's full. Deflate is empty. So these ones have empty vocal sacs. This one has a full one. I wonder why. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Can you hear the frogs? Every kind of frog has its own call. That is how frogs find one another. So when a frog makes its sound, its call, or its ribbit, it has to fill up its vocal sac with air. A bullfrog in Virginia. So this is a bullfrog, and we heard a little bit about a bullfrog yesterday in our Let's Find Out magazine. They eat lots of things, and some of those things they eat are pretty big. Salamanders are amphibians too. So frogs and salamanders are both amphibians. Let's learn what that means. Frogs are amphibians. Amphibians are animals with backbones that live both on land and in water. Amphibians are cold-blooded. Their body temperature changes when the temperature around them changes. So they have a backbone. So it's an animal with a backbone. Just like we have that backbone, feel back there, those are the bones that go all the way up the middle of your spine, all the way to your head. They connect us and make us stand up straight. Well, frogs have backbones. They are an amphibian. So both salamanders and frogs have backbones. And they both live on land and in water. So we are not amphibians. We have a backbone, but we do not live in water. We only live on land. So humans are not amphibians. Let's take a closer look at the frog. Frogs and toads look a lot alike. Sometimes even experts cannot tell them apart. Skin. Frogs have smooth, wet skin. It can be many colors, but smooth and wet. Hind legs. So hind means back. Hind legs. Frogs have long back legs. They use them to leap, so they push forward. Webbed feet. Extra skin between their toes helps frogs swim better and faster. So we talked about webbed feet the last couple of lessons. Front legs. So we have hind legs, front legs. front legs. Frogs use their short front legs to prop themselves up. So their back legs push them forward and help them leap. Their frog front legs hold them up straight. Tympanic membranes. That's a big word, and it's pointing to that little space, that little circle behind their ears. Let's see what that means. Frogs and toads have eardrums on the surface of their skin. They have very good hearing. So this is sort of like their ears. They don't have the flap on the outside of their ears. We hear things on the inside, and that hole helps bring the sound in there. Frogs just have a hole there that has a covering over it called a tympanic membrane. That helps them be very good at hearing things. Eyes. Most frogs and toads have bulging eyes. They can see front, to the sides, and partly behind them. So their eyes are on the top of their head, not like humans. Ours are on the front of our face and they're inside. Frogs are above their head, but they can see forwards, sideways, and they can even try to see behind them without turning their head. We have to turn our heads to see behind us. Now, this is all about toads. All toads are a type of frog. Most toads live on land. They usually have dry, warty skin and short back legs. There is little or no webbing between their toes. So that's how you can try to tell the difference between a frog and a toad. If their skin is super bumpy and dry, it's probably a toad. If it's living on land and it does not like the water, it's probably a toad. Most toads are usually a brownish color, but some can be green, so you can't tell by the color. But in between their toes, where frogs have webbed feet, they have that skin between their toes. Toads do not have webbed feet because they're not swimmers. They don't need webbed feet. So that's how you can tell the difference between a frog and a toad. Frogs live in many habitats. Remember, we've learned the word habitat is the area or the surroundings that an animal lives in. Most frogs like to be wet. They live near ponds, swamps, and lakes, but some frogs live in the desert. They go underground to stay cool and wet. And this is a picture of an African clawed frog. So if you notice, look, they have like claws on them, kind of sharp. Must help them catch their food. This is a desert spadefoot frog. Now that frog looks very different than other frogs that we've seen. He's a tiny little head and a big body. Chapter 2, A Frog's Life. All frogs begin life as an egg. Some frogs lay as many as 10,000 eggs. Most frogs do not protect their eggs, but the male mountain coqui frog keeps a close watch. Male mountain coqui frog with its eggs. So that's the father. After the mother lays the eggs, the male will watch and make sure that nothing happens to them. But most frogs just lay their eggs and leave them there. They don't protect them. A tadpole hatches from an egg. It has a long tail and gills like a fish. The tadpole swims, eats, and grows. It goes through a change called, big word remember, metamorphosis. Gradually the gills disappear and lungs will form. This is a red-eyed leaf frog tadpole, and it lives in a place called Costa Rica, far from here. There's lots of jungles and rainforest there. This will turn into a red-eyed leaf frog, not leap frog, leaf frog. And this is a male golden poison frog carrying its tadpoles. And you'll notice there's little tadpoles on the back of that father frog, a male golden poison dart frog. So yesterday we saw a blue poison dart frog and a red poison dart frog. This is a golden one. This is a European froglet. The tadpoles begin to look like a frog. Its legs form and its tail shrinks. At about 12 weeks old, that's about 3 months, 12 weeks old, the tadpole becomes a froglet, and soon its tail will disappear. Now these are strawberry poison dart frogs. I think we saw these yesterday in our Let's Find Out magazine. So probably called a strawberry frog because of their color, but they're a poison dart frog. The planet is hopping with frogs. Frogs can be green, gray, yellow, orange, red, or blue. There are nearly 5,000 different kinds of frogs, and scientists keep finding new species. Now this shows how big the biggest frog is and how big the smallest frog is. The Cuban tree toad is one of the world's smallest frogs. It only grows to about a half an inch long. Now, half an inch is about the size of the tip of an eraser from a pencil. So if the pencil point is down here, here's the eraser. And that is how tiny that frog is when it's grown. It doesn't grow very big. It only grows about the size of the top of a pencil, the eraser. Tiny. But the Goliath frog is the world's largest frog. It can grow up to 15 inches long, so that's as big as your computer keyboard. So if you think about your keyboard in computers where we type, the whole size of the keyboard is about how big that frog can grow to. So that's huge. That's like this big. Big frog. They don't live here by us. The hungry frog. This is White's tree frog. Look at that. It shows a cool picture of his tongue. Some frogs eat spiders, snails, slugs, earthworms, and insects. They catch bugs with their long, sticky tongues. Frogs eat insects that can destroy farmers' crops. So frogs are really very helpful because they help keep the insect population down. We don't want the world to be just full of insects because that would eat a lot of our plants that we need to be able to grow for food. Big frogs will eat big meals. This is a South American bullfrog eating a walking stick insect. It's a neat insect. Walking sticks are pretty big. He has them in his mouth. Big frogs eat big meals. They can eat mice, small reptiles like snakes, and even other frogs. Frogs use their eyeballs to swallow food. By blinking, a frog pushes food down its throat. So every time a frog blinks, it helps the food swallow down their throat. I never knew that fact. Some frogs have favorite foods. The Madagascar mantella frog mainly eats ants. The ants contain poison, and this makes the frog's skin poisonous. So these are Madagascar mantella frogs. So they have different color skins. They're the same kind of frog with different color skin, just like humans have different color skin. We're all humans and people. These frogs are the same type of frog with different color skin, but because they eat poisonous ants, it makes their skin be poisonous if you pick them up. Are frogs in trouble? Chapter 4. Many frogs have poisonous skin. The most poisonous frogs are brightly colored. This warns animals that these frogs are not safe to eat. So I think that might be my favorite frog. I think that's a cool skin. These are blue poison dart frogs, and we saw pictures of these yesterday. So far in this book, we saw strawberry poison dart frog, golden poison dart frog, and blue poison dart frog. And then those Madagascar frogs are also poisonous, but brightly colored. This is pretty cool. Some frogs use camouflage to protect themselves. They blend into the trees, plants, or dirt where they live. The Vietnamese mossy frog looks like a little clump of moss. Can you see that? There's their eyes and mouth. And it's very bumpy, has a bumpy skin so it can hide in the leaves from predators. Now this is a spotlight of a not real frog, a pretend frog, but he's kind of famous. Jim Henson was a puppeteer and entertainer. He was born in Greenville, Mississippi on September 24th, 1936. Henson created the Muppets and was the voice of Kermit the Frog. He did not have webbed feet, but like all frogs, he went through a metamorphosis. That means he went through a change. By the time Kermit appeared on the television show Sesame Street, he had turned into a frog. So he's a famous frog called Kermit the Frog. You might see that character on Sesame Street or the Muppets movies. Frog habitats are being destroyed. When humans cut down trees, some frogs have no place to live. Pollution, that's all the yucky stuff in the air that we breathe from factories or too many cars on the road, smoke, that's pollution. That also hurts the frogs. Their thin skin can absorb or soak in harmful chemicals from the air. Many kinds of frogs are in danger of extinction. And extinction means that they won't ever come back. They would all be gone and they would all die. Sometimes some scientists are working hard to protect them, though. This is an endangered tomato frog from Madagascar. We also saw this one yesterday in our Let's Find Out magazine. Kind of looks like a red tomato. This is Wallace's flying frog. Now I want you to notice this one has special webbed feet. And notice, it's really, really, really big webbed feet, and it helps them. They don't really fly, but they're super, super, super good at jumping. They jump very far, so it looks like they're flying. Now, these are some fun facts. Did you know flying frogs do not really fly? The webbing between their toes helps them glide from tree branch to tree branch. A golden poison dart frog contains enough poison to kill 20,000 little mice. Some frogs can leap more than 20 times farther than the length of their body. Now, that means they could leap as tall as Mrs. Delapenna. If I was laying down on the ground and I'm pretty tall, a frog could leap from my feet all the way to my head. They're very, very good at jumping. The Senegal running frog does not jump, though. It runs through tall, grassy areas. So that kind of frog is not a good jumper. These are some words to know. Amphibian, now that means it's cold-blooded, that lives on land and water. Camouflage means to blend in with the surroundings. Froglet is a young, small frog. Habitat is a place where animals live. Metamorphosis is a change from an immature or a young stage to an adult stage, changing. And a tadpole is a young frog that lives in the water and has long tails and gills. Now this is a fun fact. Did you know the wood frog can live in extreme cold? It can survive for weeks with more than half of its body frozen. So that animal can get almost frozen but still survive. And we learned that frogs are animals that hibernate. They hibernate down in the mud and they go to sleep. It's kind of like sleeping, but they're really alive. They're awake and they don't eat, and that's what helps them survive through cold winters. So this book was a great book that taught us all kinds of great facts about frogs. Maybe you could draw a picture of your favorite frog or write about your favorite part of that book and what you learned. You could always send me a picture of that. I love to see the things that you learn from these books that we're reading together. And now I know the difference between a frog and a toad. I hope you do too. Have a great day.